Alright? And here's a quick preview of coming attractions, because we're going to spend the last video on James 2:20 through 2:26. Here's another commercial transaction. When Abraham offered up Isaac, the idea, the actual word here is anaphero. Anaphero means that you take something to God. Something of commercial value to God. It's again, these are Jews he's talking to. This is talking about the Old Testament sacrifices. And this is the verb that was used in the LXX for Old Testament sacrifices. So he's willing to lose his son. Hebrews 11 talks about that. He was expecting to get his son back from God, but the idea was to test. That's the theme of James' letter since 1:3, James 1:3. The test of will he give up what he loves the most, his son, if God wanted it. Alright, well, that's a commercial value, of inestimable value, especially since God really doesn't want you giving up other people in human sacrifice like the pagans. Okay, but it is still a proper analogy for testing faith. You have to give up at some point in your life, especially when you mature, and that's what he's going to be talking about here. This is the maturation. He was called friend of God because in his maturation, 25 years later, he was more than 25 years. Isaac was at least 20 at the time. That was his maturation test. Was he so mature that he was willing to give up his son? And Hebrews 11 talks about that. All right? So that's not whether Abraham was saved. He got saved 25 years prior in Genesis 15:6. That's what this verse is. But the proof of his maturation was doing this, because that was what he wanted more than anything else, and he had to wait more than 25 years to get. He had 25 years to get a son. Okay. Then we have our final commercial verb. Well, not quite final, but close. Sunergo. Sunergeo. Let me show you where it's used in the Bible. Okay. These are all the verbs in the Bible using the same sunergeo word. This also is a commercial word, and it has a particular emphasis on production value, and it also has a particular value in Greek drama. Okay, it's used in Romans 8:28, and it's used in these other verses, but Romans 8:28 is like the most important. The only way this verb is used in the Bible is when God is doing the work. Okay, if you look up the other verses, you'll find Christ is doing the work here with them. You'll find God is a sole agent here, and then you'll see that the filling of the Spirit is required in these other verses. James uses the verb first in the Bible. This is considered the law of first mention. So you have to look at what James is talking about, and he's talking about an intransitive verb. An intransitive verb is used in Greek drama for the villain. The villain can't ever get his purpose realized, but God can do the impossible. So God can make an intransitive verb transitive. And the actor is not Abraham. This is the most important thing nobody's paying attention to. Okay? The faith, the word believed. Remember, 1:3 was our theme. Hey, pistis, first meaning of pistis is word believed. The word believed is doing the work. And this is the dative, it's a conduit case. It should be translated the word believed instead of just faith, so it's clearer in English. The word believed worked on Abraham's works. Tois ergos is in the plural, therefore it's talking about Abraham. Okay, it's talking about his work of offering Isaac. Okay, well, what drove Abraham? What held him together to be able to do this? The word that he believed. He believed in the Lord, that the Lord would bring him back. You'll find that out in Hebrews 11. Okay, so the word works. That's James' theme from James 1:3. The word works. Under testing, the word works to hold you together, and that it infuses, it works on whatever you're doing with your body. And as a result, the doctrine in you is completed. You mature. Preview of coming attractions. Now, the last analogy that James makes is the funniest one. Now, finally, for the first time in the whole 2 chapters, he's making an analogy to spiritual death, to being unsaved. Okay, right here. Okay, unfortunately, people don't realize that this is the Holy Spirit, but we know that because it's an arthrus. That's what the gold means. Okay, again, dead. All right, really he's talking about commercial death, and here in this case, carnality. And he's making a dual play on words here. Tosoma means body. Okay, the body without the spirit is dead. It's hearkening back to Adam's original sin in Genesis 3, which was warned about in Genesis 2:17. Okay, dying you will die. Okay, Adam died spiritually, so his body was going to die physically. All right, the body without the spirit is still dead in us because we're dead in Adam. So he's making a play on the pre-salvation condition of being spiritually dead, so you die physically, but also post-salvation carnality because your body is still dead in Adam. So you are of no commercial value to God. So anything you do with your dead in Adam body, and the book of Hebrews is going to pick up on this in Hebrews 9:14, and also in Hebrews 5:11 through 6:6, and there's another passage in Hebrews 10 somewhere. Just look up dead works in the book of Hebrews. Your works are dead. You have no commercial value to God because if you're carnal, you're without the Spirit also, no Spirit filling you. So, therefore, faith, the word in you, without, and here he reverts again to divine works. See? Divine works. When he's talking about a man is justified by works, there's no article there. I'm going to go through more of that in a minute. But see, divine works. This isn't human works now. See? Divine works. The divine word without divine works is dead. In other words, it's not talking about spiritual death because the word lives and abides forever. It's talking about commercially dead, of no value. It's just sitting in your head. Okay? So now we're going to get into the last part of it, and hopefully it'll become much clearer. Sorry this is taking so long, but I would submit it's worthwhile since this is the most misunderstood book in the Bible. Okay, now we're in the home stretch. The ironic thing about this is that this is going to be somewhat the hardest thing and yet the most dramatic thing to illustrate. The tracing of the definite article is how you get the punch of what James is saying. And I'd covered it somewhat, but what I didn't do and am doing now, as you can see, is I've mapped it by color. Monadic means that it's unique. There's also an official office signified by doubled articles. We'll see that as I go through it. Anarthrous means that the article is removed. So monadic is in light blue. Anarthrous is in a sort of orange, tan orange. And the typical use of the article is in bright blue. Now I didn't mark all the typical uses of the article because that would be really numerous and it would be even more confusing, because when you have more than 3 colors, it gets confusing. The key to understanding James is to watch how he switches, as we're going to call it, colors, between that use of the article, this use of the article, and this use of the article. Okay? It's really dramatic. And all the other NT writers do the same thing. But here in James, it's just unbelievably, dramatic. So, look at this for a minute. I need you to memorize it because I'm going to have to leave this section of the page. Light blue means monadic. It's talking about divine quality there. Okay? I'm sorry, uniqueness. Monadic stresses uniqueness. Okay? Like here, tes pisteus means one of a kind, and so I marked the tes, okay, which you can't see in English because it's not translated in English. It's in light blue to signify there's only one Bible believed. Okay, that's talking about what is believed. Remember, faith means what is believed. That's its first meaning in the Bible. Okay, so it's stressing the word. but it's stressing your belief in it. You know, the word that you have in your head that you believe. Okay, that's monadic. There's nothing like it. There's nobody else that's just like you, and there's nothing else like the word in you. All right, anarthrous, by contrast, stresses the divinity of it. This stresses uniqueness, and of course divinity is there. But this is stressing the divinity. Okay, and it's also used, by contrast, to show something that's really very evil. Okay, so anarthrous stresses quality. And here you're going to see James switch. This is the most important thing about it. And then common is your typical anything man does, or just the normal use of the noun.